banks in various categories: the national, the regional, the local. So if you put all of this together, what were the stress tests that were conducted across these banks before we went head on into this cashless thing, this currency swap? I have two transactions that are outstanding with two of the biggest commercial banks in this country today. One is since January, one since February. I'm sure there are plenty of people who have it. So calling it a few glitches makes it a bit underplaying what the issues really are. I think that we should, as a matter of fact, if we want to be where we want, if we want to get where we hope to be and want to be, I think that we should not just call it glitches. We should admit to the big gap in the expectation and what is, and we should work very quickly to resolve them. But it's a good thing at least that the CBN acknowledges it, that it has happened, and they would resolve it. Resolving it then should not be a matter of on paper. They should ensure that the banks spend some of these their big profits that they declare to expand, improve their capacity to accommodate expected transactions.
So you have a few pending transactions.
Yes, I do.
I also have a few. Devoe, do you have any pending transactions?
Almost everyone.
So that's like 100% of those of us in this studio now.
Interesting. All right. Still on the economy, this one is from Premium Times. The CBN raised its benchmark lending rate to 18% in a push to contain the nation's inflation pressure. Now, this increase was announced after the Monetary Policy Committee, which started on Monday, the meeting which started on Monday. Mr. Emefiele said the committee voted to keep the asymmetric rate corridor at plus 100 and minus 500 basis points, just around the MPR.
Okay. Let me put it this way. Let me break this down, because the MPR meeting is very financial, or the MPC meeting is very financial, and most times when we read these things, people are at a loss as to kilo once, or what are they saying, right? Now, basically, the CBN in any country, in terms of financial policy, you have the Ministry of Finance that deals with the fiscal policy, and then you have the regulatory financial apex body, in this case the CBN, that deals with monetary policies. Now, what they've done at this last meeting is to shift it to 18%. Now, what does that mean? It's moved gradually across maybe the past 1 year from 15, 16.5, 17.5, 18. Gradually it's going north, simply because the CBN is trying to contain inflation. Now, the problem there, and inflation basically is a rise in prices across goods and services nationwide. Everybody has seen, especially from the even before the Naira design crisis, from the Russia-Ukraine war, where deregulation hit imported petroleum products, we saw how Nigeria was paying a killing. So, like I said earlier, from the increase in petrol or the increase in imported petroleum products, everything in this country went up. So, and where we feel it at the end of the day is especially basic consumer goods like food, gari, yam, when you're buying things in the shop, how to fix your hair, etc. All this is affected at the end of the day. And when it hits transport prices, because of higher pricing, across board, those who are using buses, higher cabs, even you that's filling in your car, you find it harder to get it. You also end up paying much higher. So to contain all of this, they've steadily been increasing the monetary policy. However, now what that means is that the lending rates will increase. Now, it's good and bad. And why so is because, you see, the monetary policy is limited in its capacity to handle some of these issues like inflation. Monetary policy is weak when the fiscal policy is not working. And in this case, the fiscal policy in Nigeria has not been working for a while. So what it means is, currently you can see the policy rate is at 18%, but inflation is still at around 23%. Even if it's 20, let's even be conservative here, you're still at a loss. What it means is that your savings have gone to zilch, right? They're not working for you. Right now, it works for anybody who is attempting to invest into Nigeria. But those who are trying to save, they won't go too far. And what that does, and let me just chip this in here, is, all those while we see banks making money when the economy is not going good. This is where it's pushing them to, because at the end of the day, it's easier and wiser to actually put your money in treasury bills than to lend, because at the end of the day, lending becomes too high for many businesses, and the bulk of businesses in the country are small, medium scale sized businesses. So, what I say, the point and the lesson here is we need to get our fiscal policy right. Fiscal policy deals with those hard decisions of how a country is going to move forward and literally how a country is going to make money. Subsidy, those are fiscal policy issues. Subsidy on FX, fiscal policy issues. Subsidy on petroleum, fiscal policy issues. Subsidy on electricity, fiscal policy issues. Government owned businesses, should government be in business, or should government be raising, bringing in the private sector to be able to raise the capital to deliver on social amenities like road, water, all the infrastructure, hospitals, etc. These are the fiscal policy issues. And for the lack of a better statement, linking this to the election, this was the whole reason behind the election. Change the government that you need to be able to get what you want. But here we were discussing, as always, ethnicity and religion.
All right, so let's go on to WhatsApp. We've got some messages coming through. Olutayo says, in the right environment, Emefiele should resign, given the massive flop of his reign. He literally messed up the economy and tried to shift the bulk and distract. Okay, Lara says, apparently the banks are not the key contributors to the failure. All banks use the same intermediary, NIBBS. And this message from Ajayi says the so-called apology from the CBN governor is an insult on our collective intelligence. This charade can only go on in Nigeria. All right. Diola says the central bank made it impossible for the Nigerian banks to have their technology in the cloud because of regulatory hurdles that they placed in their ways. Central bank has messed up this country. It's as simple as that. But whatever it is, he needs to, well, not be here. And Idima Puza takes it to church. He says Nigeria needs prayers that God should use the leaders, the new leaders, to make use of the abundant resources to better our lives. Let there be power 24/7. Let's refine our crude oil. No more importation. No more Boko Haram and bandits. Amen and amen. All right, let's go on a quick break. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. This is Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. So, are those the headphones that Devoe was using previously? Okay, so just, you know what, bring it, let me see this.
Your story, the next story is actually interesting, but it didn't state the bills that he cancelled.
Yeah?
I said your next story is interesting, but it didn't state the 19 bills that he did.
I'm reading it. There are many of them are just
Yeah, it's working
It's like
here.
changing of mistakes in the whatever.
Mine is working for him.
Changing of mistakes in the constitution. Like instead of writing Obio Akpo, they wrote Obia Akpo.
Obiago.
And instead of O, they
Yeah,
wrote A, so they need
it's
to
his
change the
proofreading.
constitution.
That was not his job.
No, you know, it's already a constitution. You have to make a
I
resolution
know,
to change
but
it.
that was not. That is not the meat of it.
That's what I'm saying.
That was his
Many-
setback.
No, that's what I'm saying.
What's the
No,
message
that's
saying?
not what
Screen
it
grab it
says.
and send
They
it.
didn't list, even here, they didn't list the ones they didn't approve. They just listed the ones they approved. But independence of local government, police, those two are part of the ones they didn't assent to.
Okay, last story after he takes his oath. They jacked out the last one.
Okay. Sorry, is that 5, Devo?
That's yeah.
Okay.
Instead of that 5, we take the last
6,
story.
okay.
No, 7.
7. Okay.
Stop jackpot.
All right. So wait.
So we need to create time for that rain story.
Rain
The
story.
rain story we have to talk about.
It's futile. Nigerians don't listen. It will come. It will block our roads. We'll go back again.
Hey,
Morning.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. It's Zibby and Lakunle and Devoe this morning. I see your messages coming through. Please keep them coming. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. I also see your message on the live stream. We'll come to that shortly. We're streaming live on YouTube. Just search for Smooth 981 and you can catch the live stream up on YouTube as well. And Chibuzor says, correction, it's not the central bank stopping banks from cloud infrastructure. It's NDPR and legal regulations which prevents companies from hosting sensitive data belonging to Nigerian citizens outside Nigeria. It actually opens the space for local cloud operators and saves chunks of forex that would have gone to the likes of these companies. So it's a double-sided coin. Thank you, Chimazo, for the clarification.
I'm not sure the NDPR prevents anybody from doing anything. It's just to protect our data, really. And I'm sure that there are um, um, hosting services in this country that are already doing this. I know of many organizations who hold sensitive data, even for government, who host their data in Nigeria. The ADPR documentation took a long time to be put together. It's out there for people to see. I think that um, in the light of what it is, it's just this idea that what is Nigerian is not good enough that many of us have in our head. Excuse me. That's preventing possibly the banks from doing this. I would be an advocate of, look, let's use what is Nigerian. We can name names of data service and cloud services companies in this country. I know at least 4 of them who are good enough to do this. So I'm not particular. I'm not sure that the NDPR stops you from doing it, except I do understand that
companies
that
outside Nigeria.
Yes, the NDPR promotes that. For example, if I was in government, I would not encourage my government data to be hosted outside Nigeria. Yes, I would do everything and anything to ensure that my data that I own as government of this country, for example, the data of my citizens I'm holding in name, I prefer it to be hosted here than anywhere. So what happens if I was hosting in Ukraine, for example, and there is war in Ukraine now? That means that I'm now subject to hope, in quotes. So those are the kind of things that we need to be wary of. So
all right, let's move on to the next story. And this one comes from The Nation. Now, the Senate says it's constituted a committee to probe why the president did not assent to 19 out of the 35 constitution review bills that were transmitted to him by the National Assembly. Ahmed Lawan, who's the Senate president, made this assertion in remarks during the resumption of plenary after the elections.
Okay, so 35 or 44. Yes, so for me, I'd look at the story from maybe two angles, and very quickly I'll try to do that. One is that the president refusing to assent to those bills will probably be asserting his independence from the Senate, which we thought that the Senate also itself should have should assert his own independence from the executive also. So whatever it is that there is to be done, they will politically eventually solve it. But time is fast running out. Mr. President has approximately 60 days left in office. And so if they want him to be the one to assent to these bills, the National Assembly, they know what to do. What is interesting about this is that, okay, so at the beginning of the week, we had the news that electricity, rail service has been removed from the exclusive list of the federal government, is now on the concurrent list. And we can see the opportunities that exist in those two areas of our national life. Now, the big elephant in the room for me, if you ask me, one of those bills that is very important, maybe two that I have interest in, is the autonomy of the local governments and reorganization of the police, or what popularly everybody calls state police. These two things, we are running away from these things. And the local government is the nearest arm of government to the people. They are the ones who have the most impact on people.
It wasn't a month.
I'm saying those out of these 44, many of them were alterations to the constitution in terms of spelling of names, in terms of change of name of local government, and so on and so forth. Those ones, and today, and those local governments being called their correct names or whatever. Yes, it's all right to do, but when you come out and say that you are saying you sent 44, it looks like it's big, that they are doing a lot of work. But the bigger ones, the bigger issues, we are leaving them out. Let us face those bigger issues. Let's deal with those things. The autonomy of local government, the governors know what they want. They know what they are doing by sitting on this thing. The houses of assemblies of the 36 states, they are not even independent to make these decisions because the governors have all of them in his pocket. The policing of this country, all of us agree that the way we are being policed today is not adequate in every way. Are we going to leave it like this? Why are we afraid to do something different? Whatever name we want to call it, whatever style we'll have to do, we need to do something different about the policing of this country. There is no hardly a state in this country today that the military, who are supposed to just be the custodian of our territorial integrity, they are now doing local policing. During these elections, for the 1 week, they were camped in one secondary school close to my house. I see them every day, soldiers. That's not where they're supposed to be on duty. Police are supposed to do the local police, but we are playing with those big ones. We are now making issues. We are setting up probe to check why it's not ascending to. Anyway, it's what we take important that I see that we need to be speaking to. All this, anything that is not so as important as that in this stage of our national life, we should focus on those big things. When we take care of those big things, all the small things will not be something we would worry about.
All right. From the live stream, Ayo says, I also have 2 pending transactions since February. It's still unfair for the CBN governor to be economical with the reality, although at least he recognizes it. Jerry says the word glitches is highly insulting and annoying, to say the least. The same word INEC used. There should be some knowledge of how many people this has affected. And let's go on to this message. This one is from Olumide. Olumide says the problem is Emefiele's CBN acts like they are the only player in the economy. The idea behind interest rates manipulation is to control money in circulation. This works in economies that balance both monetary and fiscal policies. The money in circulation isn't the main driver of inflation in Nigeria. So we're moving on to Daily Post. The National Association of Government General Medical and Dental Practitioners is asking the state government to make the health sector very attractive for young doctors. They're appealing to residents in a move to, in some way, stop the Japa syndrome.
Well, the people of Ekiti are shouting now. This is an association of medical practitioners. They're saying hashtag say no to Japa, whereas the response they're getting is hashtag why will I not Japa, you know? And they're particularly talking to young doctors that government should do whatever it takes to be able to stop the exodus, especially resident doctors, those who are in the final stage of training, which we know we've lost over 40,000. Within the last 5 years. Now, one of the issues that they said has been an issue is their welfare. The Dr. Akinle Alao, that's the chairman of this association, was saying that government should look into their pay, one level. Secondly, their working conditions, and their working conditions is actually the one that is less stated, but it's actually the most serious, and that speaks to the equipment that they use. It speaks to their safety. If you remember, during the time of COVID, many of the doctors complained that they had to be borrowing masks and gloves. And at some point, when they couldn't get enough from their employers, they had to be asking patients to bring their own safety kits, or else you would not be treated. And then the man hours. The man hours is also a major serious issue. I know we heard the screams and shouts from those from London saying that they were working inhumane man hours. I don't think it's anything more than what they're doing in Nigeria already because of the scarce availability. Many doctors literally work round the clock, and when I say round the clock, let's say they're meant to work for a week and a half and then take a 3-day break. That 3-day break, of course, customers pile up, and then the chief medical director is telling you, please continue, I don't have anybody to replace you. So they work day to day. I mean, they're not machines. So, and many of these bad working conditions is what is mounting the pressure on them, looking at attractive opportunities, better living and working conditions for them outside the country. And this is not just America and the UK and Canada. Nigerian doctors are literally everywhere around the world. Now, other people who are affected by this Wawulano Japa syndrome entail are teachers, who we always told that they'll get their reward in heaven. Well, they're discovering that there are places on earth that they can get their reward, I mean, why would they not jackpot? Hashtag, the medical, it's not just the doctors. You have the lab scientists. You also have the nurses who literally support the doctors. You also have a lot of blue collar and professional service um, professionals within the country who are also on this train. So, as they say, hashtag say no to Jackpa. Try not to sing back. Why will I not Jackpa?
All right, that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Do stay with us. There's a lot more to come. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your messages. And thanks to our analysts, Lakunle and Devoe as well. Devoe is going to be here on Lagos Stocks, and that starts from 9 a.m. Stay with us.
First.
Will I?
Woo!
Will I?